Hello, everybody. My name is Kendrick viera-ramos, and today we will be explaining Kendrick's fictional stories, Chapter 8. So, it all started on April 17th, 2012, at 12:49 p.m. The perpetrator, Warren O'Brien, was gearing up until suddenly memories of him started flashing right through his eyes. The first memory that flashed at him was a memory of his parents before they both died in a car accident. So, he wiggled his head and then focused on gearing up until he was finished, in which 3 people went into the bathroom. Those 3 being Reggie Oxton, who was a freshman, Omar Hashim, also a freshman, and also Christian Shapcott, who was also a freshman. And also, all 3 of them all had to go to the bathroom after their soccer practice, since they were competing against another high school, until Warren busted out of the bathroom stall, and thus 3 shots were pulled, and thus all 3 of those 3 freshmen died. Thus another memory started flashing at him. That memory of his was when he was in target practice with his uncle, which his uncle actually used to work at a range that's like in the same area as Westboro High. That is how Warren became fascinated with like arsenals and weapons. So, as that memory faded, everyone in that school, while they were not aware that their lives are going to be over, they just resumed their lives as usual. But while the shooting had happened, it was past the bell had rung, and that was 6th period lunch. When it was in the hallway, Warren realized that he could get arrested. Well, he could get caught or apprehended or slammed to the ground by everyone. So he waited the time until 6th period lunch had happened. So he began going stealthy until he pulled out a grenade and threw it in the cafeteria. In one of the tables, it exploded, injuring 7 others, killing 6 people. So after that, he began shooting at several people, including the teachers. And that's where he got another memory flashed at him. That memory being of when he was in 2nd grade. When he was in 2nd grade, he got bullied by another 2nd grader who was actually part of the Little League during the time. So, yeah. So, he dreamed of beating him. And eventually, not realizing he actually is indeed killing people, half of the cafeteria died from Warren, due to the gunshots, the shots, and the grenade explosions. So, yeah. So he started going into several classrooms, but people started realizing, all the teachers, but he never realized that all the teachers are all on lockdown, in a lockdown drill to prevent more people from getting killed. That's eventually one of the teachers decided to call the police to report a shooting. Eventually, that became the teacher's fate, because she didn't realize the door was accidentally open. So when Warren heard the call, he opened the door. He threw a grenade and shot the teacher. Thus, more people died. Yeah. So eventually, after that, another memory flashed at him. And that was the very thing that actually started the shooting. The ghost of Andrew Blaze, telling him that he has to off people and erase them from existence. And thus, that is one of those memories. Eventually, he marched onto random hallways, busting into bathrooms, killing even more people. Eventually, he marched into the library. And that's where another memory of him, another memory have flashed at him. Yeah. That memory, it turned out to be one of the last memories that flashed at him. And that one is one of the saddest. His teacher, him being bullied in middle school. Other memories started flashing at him in his very eyes. Eventually, and then and then also in one of the last memories, that he lost his best friend in middle school in a mall that is encountered by Cybertronians. Big robots during the time. And who is that big robot? This robot since arrived at Earth during the time. So he felt pressure. So before he went outside the library, he wanted to burn the school to the ground. So he looked into one of the propane tanks that was in the school, and he lighted it on fire, thus exploding the propane tanks and causing more structural damage. So he went to the bathroom. No, not bathroom, library. And then he thus turned the gun on himself. And he committed self-deletion. So, of course, that is the West. Yeah. So the police and all the survivors and injured people, they were all horrified of what happened. And that half of the building was destroyed. Like some things in the building were destroyed. So, of course, the school continued on as normal right up until the summer of 2012. After the summer of 2012, that's it. The school was demolished. It was demolished and later was rebuilt into an Arby's. And then the governor, yeah. And then thus, the legend of Westboro High passed on as memories passed on. So, what happened after the Westboro High incident? We all know that in the summer of 2012, the school was demolished. And let's see. Yeah. And thus, parents of the victims who died in the incident all had made memorials of them. And then, of course, a month after the school was demolished, the principal had actually resigned and retired. And don't forget, Sandra Walker, one of the survivors of Westboro High, had actually spoken out in a podcast about her trauma and the survival and her experience with Warren. So, yeah. And she was actually flat out not aware that he was actually being violent in his deteriorating mental health. None of the teachers were aware of his mental health, of his deteriorating mental health. And thus, so many people felt traumatized afterwards. And what remains of Westboro High is currently now a Wendy's. Well, no, not Wendy's. An Arby's. So, and actually, no one was actually aware of it. And also, other family members of Warren actually started speaking out and calling out his uncle for the behavior that actually happened. And let's see, and let's recap. Weeks before the school was demolished, and a week after the incident, the police actually raided his uncle's home and searched through his room, finding all the journals and things he left on his room, including ammunition, notebooks, hard drives on the computers. They all found out. They were all on the news. It actually received national news that, of course, Westboro High, that happened somewhere in Michigan, had suffered an incident. So, and thus, of course, many other things. Pointing out from his manifesto that he thinks that Westboro High is everything wrong with society. He's dealt with loss from his parents, to his friends, to other family members, to even his pet. He had a pet hamster that died of pneumonia. Everything that was in his room made national news. Well, a lot of his family members were actually horrified. And not at him, just him, but also his uncle for his recklessness. So, this has been Kendrick Viera-Ramos. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe.